What's going on, everybody? On location in Southern Cal for this show. This is the Sports Counterpoints podcast. I'm GB, right next to Brian this time with Coop on the screen. What's up?
No doubt. Only two screens this time instead of
Man,
three.
only two of us. It is January the 21st, 2025. It's all football the time right now. So yeah, let's get to it. We got the college national championship, real barn burner. And then we got the playoff games in the NFL, which were for the most part entertaining. So I thought we had a few good ones. So let's just dive in, man. Starting with you guys were Notre Dame fans up until about what, second quarter?
No, I mean, I fell off that bandwagon mainly just because of how poor the Notre Dame coach was handling the game management situation. I mean, I think so much of that game relied upon him overthinking situations. You know, we're sitting there watching, and they were able to get 4 yards every time they ran straight. I'm not an A gap. I usually get very, very frustrated when I watch people do nothing but A gap runs.
That is a lot too.
But they absolutely were killing them on the A gap run, and the quarterback was getting 4 or 5 yards of carry. So how do you get to a point where you're 2 yards away from an end zone and you do a failed pass play and then decide to kick a field goal, which you miss, when you're able to consistently get, and you don't do a single run play in that 6 yard period of time? It was overwhelmingly disappointing. It ultimately turned out to be the biggest mistake of the game, to not go for that touchdown, and then ultimately to miss a field goal. Then later on, when they needed another big play, they ultimately, or sorry, not even a big play, just a play to get them to another first down, it went away from it again. I mean, it was almost like they were convincing themselves that they didn't have time that they did have, and needed to throw the ball when running the ball was perfectly okay. It would have put them in a better situation. It would have given them an opportunity to come back. I feel like Marcus Freeman, who I have nothing but respect for as a human being, and I think what he is doing over there ultimately is great, but he blew this game. And, you know, in a college championship, you cannot presume you'll get another opportunity. It's just too difficult to get to a college championship. There's so many teams, especially now with NIL money, you know, changing the landscape, making certain teams like Alabama mostly irrelevant. It was really disappointing because I thought, we talked about this. I was rooting for Notre Dame. I thought Ohio State would win. But to lose by one score effectively means that they had a chance, and they threw that chance away. So I will be happy that I got to be right, just like Jason got to be right. We both said we were rooting for Notre Dame, but thought Ohio State would win, and it was just disappointing. Jason, what do you think?
Yeah, I had Ohio State on the spread this game, and the only reason because I just don't think Notre Dame had the horses to keep up with Ohio State.
Agreed. That's where I was too.
I think they did a good job trying to keep it close after being down by 24, but there was no part of me at any point in this game that I ever think Notre Dame had a chance to actually win the game. I just thought they probably could keep it close maybe. But, like you said, it's an accomplishment for them to get there. I don't think that Notre Dame is going to be a perennial contender year in, year out. But for them to get there and get this far, I mean, it's a credit to them. And I still believe that Marcus Freeman, you're right about Marcus Freeman. I still believe he's a good coach. But, yeah, I do agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, look, I don't think, and to be honest with you, I don't think Ohio State would have made the old tournament format with just 4 teams because of that loss to Michigan. But with this 12-team format, they were able to get in, and they made noise and ended up winning. But I mean, you pretty much summed up everything though. But I was never really intrigued about this game, except if Ohio State would beat the spread. In the end, I ain't gonna lie, I got a little bit nervous. I needed that field goal to go through, and it did. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
I think what Brian said yesterday when we were sitting there, I thought it was like, was it yesterday?
The game was,
Monday. Was that you don't get a lot of those chances, and I was just thinking that's real because there ain't no guarantee that Notre Dame's going to be back here. So you got
not during Marcus Freeman's tenure. I mean,
you got to take advantage of it when you had it. And they had chances, but based on what we're seeing, they're keeping it close, and then they let O State run away, and they couldn't catch it back up. So they lose.
I feel like they established a winning strategy at the very beginning of the game, a real long drive. Yeah. And then when Ohio State was able to answer relatively quickly, like 4 or 5 minutes game time, they got nervous and were like, oh, we have to score quick now. But they can't score quick. That's not their game plan. They are a bruising team that just plays and plods, and all they needed to do was continue to do that. Even if Ohio State scored quickly, as long as you're matching them score for score, it can take you 20 minutes to match their score for score, as long as you do it. But they got, they started trying to pass, and Greathouse in the second half was outstanding. He made some great catches. He made some great plays. This is not to say that they shouldn't, use him in certain instances, but the rest of that passing attack was not great. And they kept on going back to it when they didn't need to.
And I hear what you're saying on that. How they tried to score quickly. Notre Dame has actually played like that all season. Their schedule, similar to Texas, wasn't really, that brutal. They didn't play a lot of good teams, whereas Ohio State played Oregon twice. They played Michigan. They played a lot of teams. And, so they kind of know how to play teams like Notre Dame, whereas Notre Dame, you're right. When they scored, they tried to score quickly, and that worked for them throughout the season. It ain't going to work against Ohio State. They should have stuck to what they are or what they know in that first drive. You're right, and it kind of backfired on them. Yeah.
You would almost think that I wasn't
work.
Someone who from week 2 or 3 basically said there's only 3 teams in college football. That's Ohio State, Texas, and Oregon, which turned out to be the 3 better teams, and Ohio State won it. That was kind of stuff. But I feel disappointed because, one, I was rooting as a fan, not as somebody I picked Ohio State and knew that's the way it was going to go. But as a fan, I was rooting for Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame. I know a lot of people who are rooting for Notre Dame, so on and so forth. So as a fan, I sound awfully disappointed for someone who got it right.
Yeah, right. Y'all both knew exactly what's going to happen, and it did. So,
oh man, yeah.
Word. So that was a good game. All State is your national champion, so much respect to them and Coach Day and all them. So there it is. So now to the league.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Starting with the first game of the docket, you have the Chargers. No, wait.
No, don't say that.
Sorry,
hey, Brian, man, you're probably gonna say something about this, but it was crazy how Houston, Kansas City. It started out Kansas City -10, went down to Kansas City -8, and on Tuesday we did the podcast. It was Kansas City -8.5. On Thursday it jumped up to 9.5, and then the final score was 9 damn points. That was.
Hey, Vegas knows what's up. Texans and Chiefs on Saturday. Texans lose 14-23 to Kansas City.
So, B, what you think about it? Tell me about it.
Well, look, I thought that the Houston had enough firepower and was a little bit hot enough that they could kind of keep it close. And I really honestly think that KC's vulnerable this offseason, which we'll all hear more about in a moment. But look, this game I figured would be low scoring. I just don't think either offense. Kansas City always plays down to an opponent. Houston kind of did what they were going to do. It was good to see the players kind of make it happen. CJ Stroud looked solid, not great, not bad, but solid. It's good to see Joe Mixon get a little bit of burn. I think he had over 100 yards. My campaign for old running backs, or whatever you want to call it, it continues. It was a good season for them, and Joe Mixon was another one that it's hard not to like and support. Other than that, this was a relatively boring game. The one thing I guess I have to point out, which a million people have, there was at least 3 very obvious, blatantly bad, horrible calls in favor of Patrick Mahomes. And at some point in time, the league needs to shake that off their leg, because you don't want there to be a situation in which people doubt the integrity of the league long term and have that continue to make a groundswell, all because of something obvious. If Kansas City Kansas City's in Missouri, man, it's not New York. It's not the frozen card for the Knicks. It's just a really bad look that so consistently the storyline becomes a bad play in the favor of Patrick Mahomes. He didn't get touched one time. The other people barely dinged him, and that was 30 yards and 2 important first downs where they had ultimately been put into punting situations where they ultimately turned them into scores. So,
And they need to try to replay those personal foul penalties, man, because that one wasn't really helmet to helmet. It was more like a bang bang play. They didn't have to call a
You
15-yard
should be able to
penalty.
replay anything. That judge was
Yeah.
bad.
But yeah, so the Chiefs, first team in NFL history to win a playoff game despite being outgained by over 100 yards and did not create one turnover. I did learn something from this game, though. I'm going to go a different route, Brian. I never understood why in crucial moments of the game, Travis Kelce is wide open. I never figured that out. Why is he wide open? You should know where he's at. And the reason why I figured it out, he's open because he's not running the routes that the opposing team is prepared for. He's going where you don't. And Mahomes knows this. So he just waits for him because Mahomes is really not looking all over the field in certain situations. He's just looking to see where Kelce's going to be. And the routes that he's running, he's supposed to be in a certain place of the field. And when you look at the replay, the defender is going to where he's supposed to go. But Kelce is going left instead of right or right instead of left. And that's why he's wide open. I used to think it was lapses in defensive coverage. So, I mean, credit to Kelce and Mahomes for figuring that out.
Having that creativity, yeah.
Yeah, but
it's just like you used to play if you played football and you're in front of your house or in the street or something like that. It go up there and get open. Like that's the play.
Yeah, right.
Go run a short route and get open, and that's what Kelce does.
That's what it was. Yeah,
he just waits and throws it to wherever he goes.
I like DeMeco Ryan. I love DeMeco Ryan. I wish he was still our defense coordinator. Now I think in a short amount of time he's proven to be a good head coach, but sometimes in games like this, defensive coaches kind of show themselves, which is why I always lean towards offensive coaches. Don't get me wrong, Houston showed up ready to win. They showed up wanting to win this game, but kicking the ball into the win late in the game, knowing your special teams on the road is not so special. That's something defensive coaches always do. They always play for that field goal. And, it was fourth down. The Texans were discombobulated, and they're in no man's land on the field. And I'm thinking just like Troy Aikman, call a timeout, because this is a play you have to get right. This doesn't happen really with offensive coaches, and it happens with defensive coaches, unfortunately, all the time. And, nothing against DeMeco. I still think he's great, but it's something like that. You need to call a timeout, settle your team down, and get the right play in. But it's nothing against him or nothing against Houston's season. They just went up against KC, and a lot of people, they went up against the refs too. So, I mean, it was hard, but, they fought and they ended up losing the game.
What we expected to happen, though. I mean, I didn't think the Texans were actually going to win.
No,
right, me either. Right. Yeah.
No, I just thought that they were going to keep it close. And they kept it close enough.
Yeah, it was close enough. But so Chiefs Texans, and then we go to Commanders Lions. Commanders win 45-31 Saturday night.
I thought this game was over at halftime. To be honest with you, Washington's going to win. But look, I had Washington going to the playoffs before the season started, but I didn't see them making a run like this with the roster that they have.
Yeah, you thought it was going to be the Bears, right?
Good. Yeah, you're funny. I picked Detroit. I picked Detroit to win this game close and Washington to cover. Mainly because I'm just not putting anybody's money on Jared Goff to cover a 9-point spread in the playoffs. But it's funny, man. Detroit, they had 11 games. They scored over 30 points this year. KC had 2, and Detroit couldn't win a game. And Mahomes is going to a seventh straight AFC title game. But this game was about Jared Goff, man. He was atrocious. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. He was so bad that the hot offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, called a trick play down 10 points with their season on the line for a wide receiver to throw the ball downfield. This is the same wide receiver they had to actually pull from the ground because he kept humping the ground after scoring a touchdown. They had that guy throw it off his back foot down the field for it ended up being an interception. Sometimes offensive play callers get too cute. I mean, I know I have one on my team for my team, they get too cute in those situations. That was kind of cute. And, it ended up costing them. Goff was bad. That play was suspect. The defense was horrendous. Aaron Glenn kept calling blitzes as if he was playing against Sam Darnold from 2 weeks ago. This is Jaden Daniels. This is 2 separate quarterbacks. Daniels kept beating that blitz for 4 quarters. Obviously, he didn't get the memo that he's pretty good this season. He's doing his thing. It also didn't help that the corner, he hurt his arm. His arm was like pointing in a different direction. The second play of game. This is the guy who kind of locked up Justin Jefferson for 3 catches 2 weeks ago. He got hurt the second play of the game. So
it was Amik.
Amik Robertson. Yeah. It started out bad, but Jaden Daniels, man, I'm loving watching this guy play, man. He's a calm rookie He has good instincts, and he's very poised. You can't teach that with what he has. The instincts and the poise, you can't teach. They either have it or you don't. And it's surprising because the Bears didn't even bring this guy in for an interview last year. And I guess that's why the Bears are the Bears.
We got Ben Johnson though, so it'll be all right.
Yeah, we'll see.
The funny,
we'll talk about
thing
that.
that's aging sort of like milk. I don't know if you've seen this. Is remember there's that video of the Giants GM talking to his kid about Saquon. And he's like, talking about bring back Saquon. There's another video of the same conversation where he says, "Well, which quarterback? Who do you think?" And one of the little kids says J.J. McCarthy, but the other kid, the one who said you should keep Saquon, immediately goes Jaden Daniels. Like this kid's gonna get it be a G. I mean, it's a funny video, but it's the same kid who was saying don't get rid of Saquon, and also Jaden Daniels instead of any of the other quarterbacks. The Giants couldn't. All you had to do was listen to a 16-year-old kid or a 15-year-old kid or whatever it is, and they'd been in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, look, the hype that JD is getting is well deserved. I mean, he doesn't have. I don't think people understand. He doesn't really have anyone on this team to help him. He has one wide receiver, talented player, Terry McLaurin. His tight end, Zach Ertz, he's almost 40 years old. His running backs are by committee. It's like he has a scat back in Austin Eckler. They have Brian Robinson as a running back who they don't really want to be his running back because he has a fumble issue. They got Christian McCaffrey's brother, Luke. I think he went to 3 different colleges. But yet he doesn't have much to work with, but yet he's still throwing pinpoint passes over the middle, running for yards when needed and getting pivotal, scores during the game. I'll let you go because there's 3 things about JD I learned this game, but I'll let you talk about this game first.
You really like quarterbacks that make something out of nothing. I see. That's interesting because I can think of one you also like who's made nothing out of anything ever given. But go ahead.
I'll be quick. I mean, look, it's not. If you look back historically from when rookies have made runs in the playoffs, even in one case winning a Super Bowl, the teams have won in spite of the rookie quarterbacks play. And in this instance, it's extremely rare. I can only think of this instance. They're winning because of Jaden Daniels' play. He's got poise that is way beyond his years in the league. His accuracy is that of somebody who just understands where the ball needs to be. A lot of times the rookie quarterbacks can't hit the spot, not because they don't have the ability to throw to a point and be accurate, because they can't understand the timing and the speed of the football in the pros. They can't understand the closing speed of a corner where, there's one corner like this in the all of college football. There's one on every team there where even if they're not great, they're the best that you would have seen at any point in time in college football. So a lot of rookie quarterbacks get flustered, aren't able to do anything with that. And Jaden Daniels, in spite of some average talent around him, is just doing the thing. It is awesome to watch. It is a lot of fun to watch. The moment is not outside of him, and he makes it very, very easy to root for him. He is definitely going to be out of all of the quarter. I understand people think that Caleb has a lot of talent. I was one of them that thinks a lot of talent, but I also think the Bears threw that away. But I think Jaden Daniels is definitely hands down going to be the best quarterback of this year, the last year and this year. I'll throw this year's craptastic class.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why they go for it so much is because they believe they can win with him and he makes the right plays. It's like the opposite of the Lions. The Lions go for it because they have the best offensive line in football and 2 good running backs. It has nothing to do with Jared Goff. Washington goes for it all because of Jaden Daniels. So, it's different. He's been doing really good.
They got it right, man. I don't know if you guys have friends that are Washington fans, but them people are excited.
Well, I just went to dinner with one of my team members and employees that's from the DC area. They're definitely enjoying the moment.
Man,
and I'm just so glad that this happened after Dan Snyder left. I mean, I don't think it could have with him there because he would have screwed it up some kind of way. But I just would hate for that to get paid off. I mean, he is now a very, very wealthy person. But as a result, I know it hurts him to his heart to have this level of success happen outside of his ownership. And for people to go on TV and almost immediately point to the ownership and their wisdom as the reason why this is happening.
Especially how fast.
Yeah.
It's not like 3-year rebuild.
No.
It's like
This,
boom.
yeah,
soon
right.
as he
This
was
is
gone.
first year,
Soon
and
as
he's
he was
already
gone.
in the Eastern. The owner's already in the Eastern Conference Finals, whereas he's owned the 76ers forever, and they can't even make the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah,
So
NFC
yeah, you know
Championship,
he's
yeah.
excited. No doubt.
No, Magic Johnson's words had to hurt. He's like, this is all about the owner, the owner, the G of the situation they put him in, and that team out there they put on the field. Like that, he didn't mean it in that way because it's not how Magic works. But that was a shot. Like it went right through the heart. It was a pinprick right through the heart.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. I read this thing too that I saw a video on it that Jaden Daniels found some like there's some German company that creates like a VR football.
Yeah.
And so he has that like with the headset and he'll go against whatever defense he's going to face that week and just make split-second reads, program his plays in there and like work it through before the game.
Well, yeah. So Brian Kelly said that he's a student of the game, which is good because that's what you want your quarterback to be. You want to be all football.
Early every day.
Yeah, all football. That's what you want.
One of my favorite, every post I saw about Jaden or Washington, like that was specific to him, Antonio Pierce like this. Antonio Pierce like this. I was like, I know he did because that's all he wanted on his team, but we couldn't do it. So by the way. All right, so that game, surprise if you're a Lions fan. Well, maybe not though. I think a lot of Lions fans, like looking at the crowd, they were used to the disappointment. So
I
that's
don't
why
know.
they got those.
Someone who might, just despondent over it and like I'm not watching the football for the rest of the season.
I mean,
well, Glenn, that's why they wear them shirts in Detroit that say rebuilding since 1957.
right.
It's a reason for that.
Saying,
You know,
I mean, and this
it's a reason for that.
you don't care because you want the big win, but I do think kind of we talk about recency bias. I don't know if it counts in this case, but we forget like how good they actually were to get where they were in that division was because everybody lost. So easy to just throw out your season because you didn't win the big game. But this is the best
they won
season
15 games
ever had.
They've had stinkers before, right? So they had a four interception win earlier this year. And so I think that it was just inconceivable to them that there was a game that they could have bad enough where they wouldn't have the ability to come back.
I was surprised too, honestly, but that like you were saying about Jaden Daniels though.
Hey, you guys are fading.
Okay.
Connection's unstable.
Yeah.
Wait, I can't see you guys. You guys are fading. I can't see you. Okay, now I see you. Okay. All right, cool.
All right, thanks. Yeah.
All right. I can see and hear you now.
It's that wind has been whipping all day, so we'll blame that. But yeah, so they good game for the Commanders.
All right.
Did what they're supposed to do. So next game you have
Rams
and Eagles.
And Philly.
Rams lose 22-28 to the Eagles.
Yeah, go ahead, B. Break it down.
I mean, it's look, Rams got to a point where they were playing with house money because they showed that they are a pretty darn good team, but they did it with a record that wasn't super impressive, mainly because they didn't have Cooper Kupp and Puka early in the season. And they played good football, but they were playing with house money. So I don't think anybody is so shocked or despondent over the fact that the Rams lost this game. And they gave themselves plenty of chances to win this game. I honestly think that a couple things going their way. Cooper Kupp being healthy, he's clearly not. He gutted it out. He played hard, but he's clearly not the same Cooper Kupp that they got back in the beginning of the season, who played outstanding for 4 games before getting injured, coming back a couple weeks later, and has just not been the same guy. Puka Nacua is that dude. He is just a rock star. Kyron Williams is a great young talent as well. I think that despite the loss, the Rams should be exceptionally up on what they were able to accomplish. They've got amazing young talent on the defensive end. Jared Verse is an absolute beast. He was living in the backfield. And, this is one of those games where you just give it up to Philly. That's what they're supposed to do. They've got that championship pedigree. When I mean that, they've been there and had that experience, know how to get themselves out of tight spots. But the young guys of LA are going to be back. I don't know if Stafford's going to be back. We'll probably talk about that at another point in time. But they're most certainly have shown that they deserve the moment. I don't think that anybody's going to be despondent. I don't think this is going to be one of those hangover situations where next year they're going to get worse.
Yeah.
They got to figure out the quarterback situation, but they've got great young talent. They've rebounded from the worst cap situation ever, which they basically sold it all for the Super Bowl. But it's worked out all right.
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of things on the internet. I just wanted to say this one part. This past week, comparing all the players that Detroit got for Stafford, and they were like, well, who got the best deal to trade now? And that was a bunch of Detroit fans basically talking about it with the assumption that they were going to make it to the Super Bowl. Oh, the answer is the Rams. No, until the Detroit wins the Super Bowl, Stafford got the Stafford portion of that trade, which is one player. I know they got Amon-Ra. I know they got Gibbs. I know they got all of that wonderful talent. LA got a ring.
The team that won the Super Bowl won the trade. I don't want to hear about players.
You had the best season you've ever had because of those trades too.
100%, and that's wonderful for them.
It's a fair trade. You can't guarantee
it. And they didn't win the Super Bowl.
I do think it was a fair trade. I do think they should have met it. It was great for both teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was great for both teams. It turned that franchise around
100%.
Except for more of that
the winner
win than it was draft pick.
It's the team that won the Super Bowl.
But yeah.
Look, the Rams. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the Rams are a tough team. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the Rams, they're a tough team, but their roster is nowhere near the Philadelphia Eagles. They're still, 4 or 5 players away, and they're way too Puka Nacua dependent on offense. And like you said, Cooper Kupp definitely isn't healthy. They shouldn't have been in this game, but they did have a chance to win this game, but they also hurt themselves. Kyron Williams' fumble was big, and that's crazy because that's the reason why McVay got rid of Cam Akers, because he fumbled too much. And after seeing Jared Verse, I saw him at Florida State, but now that I see him in the NFL, I'm like, yeah, the 49ers are definitely going to have to draft an offensive tackle because he's going to be a problem. Before this game, though, I did not know that Matt Stafford was 1-8 in games with snow and rain with 13 turnovers. I didn't know that, even though I still picked them to win this game.
Own team.
Look. And the reason why I picked them is because I had no problem taking the 7 points, but this is based solely because this team is Saquon Barkley dependent. He is the star of stars for this team. It's not Jalen Hurts, it's Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley he saved the head coach's job. He's keeping A.J. Brown from throwing a temper tantrum, and he's saving Jalen Hurts from criticism. He had over 200 yards rushing, and he's pretty much their offense. The Eagles have the second worst passing offense in the NFL, and they've won 2 playoff games now by passing for under 130 yards, and that's because of Saquon Barkley on offense and Jalen Carter and the rest of that defensive line. Jalen Carter is probably the best draft pick in the last 5 years. He's a very good player. I know people probably don't remember, but he fell to number 9 in the draft because he was a walking red flag. I mean, one day he had to leave the combine to go to the police station. So I know a lot of teams ain't about to take a chance on a player like that, but the Eagles did, and then it's paying off for him big time. So
they had
the Eagles, they only 1 game away from Super Bowl.
I feel like they had the infrastructure to handle it too, because like they talked about us taking them, and I was like, bro, you got to go to a team that's already has.
They got Jason Kelsey, they got Fletcher.
We talked about that on the show.
And they had there's other Georgia players there. I think like 3 or 4 starters on the defense are from Georgia. Like,
and he ain't getting on the line with them guys.
Yeah, it made sense. So I thought it was a good game. But like you said, the Rams did have a chance all the way to the end. Like when Puka caught that pass on the sideline, I thought they might do it, at least tie it up, but wasn't meant to be. So the Eagles move on. So that leaves us with the last game. Best game.
You go first.
Oh man.
The Ravens
put me on mute for a minute if you need to.
You sure you want me to go first?
Ravens
I might be a minute and a half on this one.
Ravens lose 25-27 to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
What you think, Coop?
Yeah, I couldn't wait to put my money down on this one. Plus money on Buffalo at home. Yeah, against a quarterback, they ain't never beat a good quarterback in the playoffs. I'm gonna take that all day. But look, this was the kind of game that Pittsburgh and Baltimore used to play all the time. This is the kind of game they used to play. Real close. Came down there, and Baltimore usually win it, sometimes Pittsburgh. But Buffalo's game plan, I got to give Sean McDermott credit. Their game plan was absolutely perfect. They wanted to play a slow down game because they believe they can run on Baltimore. They use quick screen passes and quick hitters in the passing game just to gain yards and move the chains. They didn't ask Josh Allen to be Superman. He only passed 7 times in the first half, and they ran for 147 yards, which is the most that Baltimore has allowed all season, en route to a 21-10 halftime lead. The Bills, they came in ready to match the Ravens' physicality. Everything Josh Allen said in the post-game interview was absolutely correct. They said they weren't physical enough. They're too small. They can't match up against Baltimore. All these people don't keep it a buck. All these people that said that don't keep it a buck about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. They'll never tell you that he hasn't beaten a good quarterback in the playoffs. They won't tell you Lamar has 3 playoff wins in 8 games. Against the wins are against Ryan Tannehill, rookie CJ Stroud, and washed up Russell Wilson. And they're not going to tell you the reason why he loses so many playoff games because he's a turnover machine in the playoffs. He had another interception, a fumbling in this game, which is his 4th playoff game with multiple turnovers. His playoff career stats is 13 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 7 fumbles. He doesn't play well in playoff games. Now, Baltimore, they should have won this game. I mean, they didn't punt all game. They scored 25 points, but they did some questionable things on offense, which cost them to lose the game. What I think is questionable is Baltimore is a really good running team. They are an outstanding running team. But for some reason, when it gets to the playoffs against Kansas City last year and against Buffalo this year, they're so obsessed with proving that Lamar can pass the ball, and it doesn't work out. The 2 best running backs in this game are Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. They should have ran the ball down the Bills' throat like they did the first game and only passed when they needed to. They had a 1st and goal at the 2-yard line the second quarter, had to settle for a field goal. Big mistake. Before the first 2-point conversion, Derrick Henry was killing in the running game. And when it came time, they scored a touchdown. When it came time for the 2-point conversion, instead of running it, they let Lamar pass it. There was a wide open receiver. Pass was incomplete. Mark Andrews, yes, he had a fumble, and everybody's talking about that drop late in the game, but what nobody's talking about is how bad of a pass that was from Lamar. It was behind him. It was low and away, and Andrews' momentum was going one way, expecting to turn back on that slick surface so he can plant and come back and catch that bad pass. With the ball in that condition, no, that's not going to happen. That's on Lamar. It's not on Andrews. He was wide open. All he had to do was lay the ball right in front of him. I understand the Bills are playing man-to-man defense and pass coverage. That don't mean you should be passing the ball with Lamar. You should have stuck to your game plan. There's a reason why the Ravens are 0-12 when they don't win in the playoffs, when they don't win the turnover battle. They don't have quarterbacks good enough to overcome that. That's why they always lose. And to be honest with you, people are blaming all Mark Andrews and stuff. Blame the Ravens for losing to the Raiders and Cleveland Browns, putting themselves in that position. They would have played a home game if they would have beaten those 2 teams. Instead, they had to go to Buffalo. And the second best quarterback in the league has always been the second best quarterback in the league for a couple of years now. Josh Allen is going to Kansas City and will go to the Super Bowl and will win the Super Bowl. Yes, I'm saying it now. That's my analysis of the game. Go ahead, B.
You did good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did good.
I expect the same courtesy.
I was glad to be here.
Yeah, okay. I expect the same courtesy. Can I
No, I ain't
first
gonna
start
say
off that I wholeheartedly disagree with everything Jason just said.
I knew you would.
Beginning to end. You went into a whole bunch of analysis, which I actually thought was correct, but it impugned the coach for a game plan that was missed, right? It should have been a running game, absolutely 100%. Best 2 running backs, they should have done that. That's on Harbaugh. I disagree with you on that pass along the way. He literally caught the ball twice before dropping it. If you can get your hands on the ball twice, you should catch the damn ball. That's on Andrews. Andrews also fumbled a ball that he caught and was running across the middle that cost them a score. That's on Andrews. How you come away with, and all of this means that Lamar Jackson still sucks, is beyond me. But
I didn't say
let's
that.
just talk about the rest of this here. It is really unfortunate because I do think Baltimore is clearly the better team. I also think that, the better team did not win here. That's fine. The Bills are plenty good enough to go beat KC this week. But most importantly about this game, if I didn't know what the score was and I heard just Jason's description of what the game was, I would have thought they lost by 20, not 2, on a 2-point and a missed 2-point conversion. This was a great battle. This was a very good game this was probably the best game of the playoffs, both from a matchup perspective and an actual game watching perspective. And someone has to win these games and someone had to lose. If Allen had lost this game, call it 2 points, go the other direction, there would have been this huge narrative about his only having 127 yards and not the team going away from him, not trusting him. I'm not saying any of that would have been right either, but that would have been the narrative. So I just think it's most important to remember that one team's got to win, one team's got to lose. It does not mean that either of those teams are horrible, horrific. You know, I'm rooting for Allen in the future. I'll be picking him again in a moment. But in this football game, I think the big mistake, which you called out in what you were talking about, is that they should have ran the ball. Both of us talked about why we thought this was going to be an under game. And that was going to be because they would constantly run the ball. The weather was going to facilitate them doing that. And they just went away from it. Derrick Henry is absolutely the second best running back in the league right now behind Saquon Barkley. He had the second best season behind Saquon Barkley, and he was the fourth option in the offense this past week. That is criminal. It is also weird from a Harbaugh-led team, but you know, I honestly think that this is on Harbaugh for a game plan that should have been done a different way. I don't think it's on Lamar. And Lamar was one of the first people to come out and say it's also not on Andrews, because for 2 yards, if you don't trust Derrick Henry to get you 2 yards running up the middle when he's averaging almost four and a half a carry, what are you doing? I'm not. So that's not a knock to say, well, I don't trust Lamar Jackson to make that pass. He made the pass, but you got to trust Lamar Jackson. You got to trust the frost and slippery field. You got to trust the defense to not be able to cover the guy, and you got to trust Mark Andrews to do it. Or you can trust the beast of a man to run straight up the middle and get you 2 yards and 2 points. I can't conceive of a person who could stop Derrick Henry from getting 2 yards when he knows it's that important. It's that or bust. And they didn't give him the ball in his hand. And that is on Harbaugh. Anyways, I hope to see the same matchup in the AFC Championship next year, or in the AFC next year, because it was fun. Those are the two teams we all wanted to see. I think everyone's going to be a little bit less excited about a Kansas City Buffalo game than they were about a Baltimore Buffalo game.
I admit, I wish it was for the Super Bowl, to be honest with you, not to play Kansas City, to be honest with you. But you know what? So I got a question for you. So Baltimore outgained Buffalo 416 to 273. It's like more first downs, more yards. I mean, they beat them in every statistical category, basically. Okay, and so I have a question. Category. Right. So I have a question. I said earlier, I didn't say Lamar sucks. This is his fourth multi-turnover playoff game. You don't think anything is on him? Like anything? He had 2 turnovers a day. And Buffalo had 0.
No. Do I think that he had turnover? Yeah, he did. I do not think he's a turnover machine because he had 2 turnovers. That's a bigger statement. Do I think he, but ultimately he was put in situations in a game where it was difficult to get passing yards, where they were trying to get him to do more passing, which you said as well. And again, I think that's on Harbaugh. I think the person who lost, if you're going to give it to anybody, and I think Harbaugh would probably say this in hindsight too, this is not on Mark Andrews, even though his plays were in the biggest moments. I mean, the turnovers by Lamar were in the first half. The game was about settled. Those 2 turnovers basically cost them the second half by Mark Andrews, but not 1 turnover and then the drop ball. But I think this is a game plan decision. And again, they only lost by 2. They lost by a failed 2-point conversion.
But Buffalo could have put that game away with the late touchdown, but he got stuffed, Allen. But I mean, look, it was a good game. My money was on it, so of course I was a little bit emotionally invested in this game. But it was a good game. I wish it was for the Super Bowl though.
Agreed. It'll be interesting because the MVP voting has already occurred. And so this game happened after it was in there. And if I think Lamar gets another MVP trophy, I would love to see him share it like they did his first year. But anyways, it'll be interesting if with Allen going off maybe to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, and if they do, I'm sure being the Super Bowl MVP and him being the regular season MVP, how that is looked at next year. But anyways, we'll see what happens.
All good.
I think it's always going to be on Harbaugh, man. He did this last year too. They switched their game plan so drastically.
So did
Shanahan
Harbaugh.
And so did Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, coaches. So did Marcus Freeman. We were talking about it.
It's not really on Harbaugh. I get what you guys saying. It's not really on Harbaugh because he's like Tomlin. He's a CEO. It's on Todd Monken. For some reason, Todd Monken. Yeah. But you're the head coach. You're right. You're right. You get the blame.
Gets to say no.
Yeah,
That's
you're
what
right.
you should say. If
Right,
the
right, that
offensive
part.
coordinator comes over there and says,
Right. No, I
here's
get
what
it.
I'm
I get
thinking.
it.
It's snowy.
Right.
It's frosty. It's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
be
Why don't
slippery.
you run
Everyone's
the
going to be
ball?
cold. I'm going to throw the ball a
Right.
whole lot.
No.
The CEO gets to say, no. We're going to
Yeah.
use Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, and we're going to
Yeah.
pound these guys
That's yeah.
until we get to submission.
Especially in
This is why you get Derrick Henry to give him the ball in these
This is
situations.
what-
Baltimore did it in the game.
Thank
I don't
you.
understand why. I don't get it. They did that
That's
early
the
in the
coach,
season.
bro.
The game.
That ain't on Lamar. That's on coaching.
It happened
There's
against
none
KC
of
the
us would
first
have not
game of
given
the
him the
year.
ball.
It's like give him the ball. So he's Derrick Henry. But
Bro,
yeah,
we all
Hey.
saw that with Marshawn in the Super Bowl. Every single one of us was like, oh, okay. Now Derrick Henry gets the ball. They tie this up. Let's go. And they don't.
right.
Here's some crazy too. They ran that same exact play to Mark Andrews like 3 times. He dropped it every time throughout other scenarios. Mark Andrews not a bad tight end by any means.
No, he's usually very sure-handed.
You can't.
But this was a situation where, as sure-handed as he was, it shouldn't have been on. That should not have been the play.
So
2
that
yards, A gap.
Yeah. The way you guys are fading, it's probably the wind.
It's blowing, but it's all right.
We'll give it a
We'll be
second.
Yeah.
You serious?
I'm gonna wait for you guys to come back. I think you guys are stuck.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. All right, you guys good. You want to move on to Washington, Philly?
Let's
you
do it,
prediction
man. So you got the
next
last
week. Go
So
ahead.
this is it, man. NFC Championship.
Last 2. Who's going to the Super Bowl for the NFC, Brian?
Yeah. What you think?
What's the spread?
Last I saw was 4.5. I didn't look at it now, but it was Philly minus 4.5 at home.
It's Philly minus 6, according to ESPN.
Oh, it went up to 6 now. Oh, it's up to 6 now. You're right. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's no way I'm not taking the Commanders plus 6 points. So they split the regular season, right? They look, I understand what Philly has, but I'm gonna bet with on the streak and say that it's just there's something that's happening here and it's time to acknowledge it. And you have to do the same thing with what happened with Pittsburgh and so on and so forth. And I think that they've earned the trust that they can win big games. And I think you don't normally, we almost never would pick a rookie in this situation. But I think that one thing Jaden Daniels has proven is all of that rookie talk is not for him. And so if you were to take Jaden Daniels and assume he's a 4th or 5th year quarterback, there's no way that you wouldn't pick the Commanders. The only reason why you fade the Commanders a little bit is because he's a rookie. Well, here we go. I think we're gonna see it. This is the biggest test. Philly does have the best statistical defense in the NFL and has had it for the bulk of the season. But I'm gonna go with Jaden Daniels, and I also get 6 points.
Yeah, I'm going to take Philly in this one minus the 6. As long as Jalen
Your
Hurts
favorite
is
team.
healthy.
I love Jalen.
You like Saquon.
Shit.
Yeah, I like Saquon too, man.
As long as Jalen Hurts is healthy, this team will win. The only reason that Washington won that one game is because Kenny Pickett came in the game. And, with Kenny Pickett in the game, it's almost a guaranteed loss. But I think Philly takes care of business. I think it's a tall task to ask Washington to go to Detroit in the Dome and beat them and then go to Philly outside, different element the following week and beat Philadelphia. So I think Philadelphia wins this game by double digits and miraculously goes to the Super Bowl. And plus, their roster. I just think at some point the roster attrition has to show itself. And Washington's roster is probably in the 20s, maybe 22nd best at some point. And Philly's is a lot higher. So at some point it has to show. And I think in this game it does. So
yeah, there's nothing to argue. There's no arguments against what you were saying there. All of that is 100% true and accurate. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just going to acknowledge that we're seeing something happen. And you might as well, see how far it goes. I think you can go one step further.
And if he goes to Super Bowl, man, it wouldn't surprise me. The way Jalen is playing, it would not surprise me if Washington won this game, but I would take Philly.
I just want to see that. I know the homies will be so excited. Philly's, they're a few years out. They won in the last 10. But
I'm rooting against Philly fans.
That'd be crazy.
Just Philly fans, they're so over the top obnoxious for their team.
Yeah.
It's great if you're part of that, but if you're not, it's not something I want to root for.
Fair enough. That's it, man.
Next game.
AFC Championship.
Next game. Yeah, we got Buffalo. KC. Last I checked, it was Buffalo getting 1.5 points from KC, just like they were getting 1.5 points from Baltimore.
2 now.
It's 2. Okay. Well, I'm taking the money line. I'm taking Buffalo to just win the game outright. They beat Kansas City earlier this season, but that's not the only reason I'm taking them. I'm taking them because they have proven they can score touchdowns against Kansas City. It doesn't matter. I remember, Glenn, me and you were at that Utah Golden State Warriors game, and if the Bills would have played could have played defense for 20 seconds, they would have beat KC in that playoff game. I think they rung up 40 on KC. I think they have no clue on how to stop Josh Allen, none whatsoever. They scored, I think, 4 touchdowns. I think maybe 3 or 4 touchdowns in the first game they played. So they know how to score against that Kansas City defense. I just think Kansas City's time is run out. I mean, they had a good run. They won all these 1-score games. They should have more losses. They don't. I think this is when it bites them in the ass, and Buffalo goes into Kansas City and wins, and finally goes to a Super Bowl. That's my prediction.
I'm going to basically say ditto. I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. And for all those reasons, I also think the Bills are going to win this game. It will not shock me. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, how did this happen? If KC finds a way to win, that is a very, very hard place to go in and win. So, I fully expect that this will be a hard fought battle, similar to what they just had to go through with Baltimore. But they also have proven that they can go and win a hard-fought battle. So, let's see what happens next.
Yeah, real talk.
That was quick and easy. Damn, all right. So that's where we're at, man. I want to see Washington, Buffalo. And I think Buffalo wins that game. But then Josh Allen gets out of that and they carry on to that. But I think it's more exciting. The Eagles, Bills, I definitely don't want to see Chiefs, Eagles again. It was a good game, but I don't need that again. I'm cool on that. So let's do I want to see the Bills, and then Bills on either side, Bills, Eagles. I think, you got Saquon, you got some matchups in there. But Jaden Daniels just having a fun season, man. It'd be good to see them, but I don't think they can match up with the Bills.
Man, think if you're the New York Giants GM, you're watching Saquon just kill it with Philadelphia. And
he's not there still, is he?
Super Bowl.
Did they keep him? They kept him and the coach, huh?
No, the Giants kept the coach in the GM. I'm saying, but they picked Daniel Jones over Saquon. They kept Daniel Jones. Yeah. What I was saying, why you keep Saquon, let Daniel Jones walk. But to watch Saquon, have the season he's having, I mean, I know they're pissed off. I mean, they should be.
Better O-line too, better team. We were talking about this. I was talking about this with Brian, how him, Jacobs, and Henry, although they all have had great years, they also all went to much better situations.
Right, organizations, yeah.
Organizations often better lines too, so it's going to breed itself for you to have better seasons.
Well, speaking of great situations, you want to move on to the game ball? Because that's kind of where my game ball going to. So my game ball is going to my man. I wouldn't say my man. It's going to Jaden Daniels. It's probably the second game ball I gave.
You stole my guy. Go on.
Yeah, got you.
Wait, you know what? You go first.
No, go. We're gonna say the same thing.
Oh no, I got it. Okay, here we go.
300 yards, 299, 2 touchdowns, 120 on the QBR rating. In the biggest moments on the road against the best record, a tie for the best record in the NFL. He delivered. He's a rookie. He absolutely deserves the game ball. There you go. Your turn. Basically,
okay. I forgot my notes. Okay, so when I was watching Jaden Daniels play against Detroit, it made me think of 3 things. Number one, he better be happy he ain't with the Chicago Bears. He got a coach that went to it. When you said about organizations, he got a coach that went to a Super Bowl, Dan Quinn with the Falcons, and he got Cliff Kingsbury, who has some NFL experience calling plays for athletic quarterbacks. So you better be happy about that. Number 2, this looks really good for Cam Ward being the number 1 pick in the draft. I'm not saying Cam Ward is Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is better. Cam Ward needs to sit. But the NFL is a copycat league, and seeing the things that Jaden Daniels does, Cam Ward does the same type of thing. So unlike Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward is actually athletic like Jaden Daniels. So it really looks good for him. And number 3, I don't know why other than they're both being black, I don't see Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels as the same quarterback. I think they're different quarterbacks. They're both good, but just different. He's nowhere. Nobody's ever the runner at quarterback. Lamar is that he's, it's whatever. But Jaden Daniels is just fast enough to get out of trouble. He's always looking to make passes down the field. He's more evasive. He takes off running as a last resort. It's not really his go-to because that's not really his specialty. His specialty is passing. So I don't look at them as the same quarterback. Other than both being black, I really don't see too many similarities between two. They both play the position differently. But those are the three things I want to say about Jane Daniels, man. If he gets the Super Bowl, man, great for him. It'll be hard to root for him though, because I know some obnoxious Washington fans, but you know, I put that to the side and just pull for him.
Yeah,
And
you know some
hopefully he
obnoxious
get the first
Niner
ring to win
fans,
Super
bro.
Bowl. Yeah, I do. I know them too.
Insane,
And Raider
insane.
fans.
But
Yeah.
I'm about to say insane. That wasn't a shot. That was just
Right.
Reality.
I know, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
All right,
wouldn't say
then-
obnoxious, delusional, but yeah, go ahead.
That too. So mine is for Dawn Staley, become the highest paid women's basketball coach.
Yeah.
25 mil on the deal, well deserved. Dawn
Okay.
Staley that was, one of my favorite hoopers when I was little. I remember that number 5 USA jersey. I remember her being on Martin. She was female Iverson lightweight. Like it was Iverson was my guy and all them people. And then Dawn Staley, like always, Dawn Staley has always been involved in my basketball life to some degree. So it's cool to see her get a shine. Got that team playing well out there in South Carolina. So that was my shout out to Dawn Staley and getting her bread.
Yeah, she my second favorite women's super. My first one was Deanna Taurasi, and then the second was
Oh
Dawn
yeah,
Staley.
I thought you were going to say Cheryl, but yeah, Tarazi was,
You said Cheryl, man. I ain't that damn old. Shit, Cheryl Miller.
He's been our whole life.
Damn old.
I mean, it ain't, you know what I'm saying? It ain't. I was, I know about her too. I didn't watch the games at SC, but she also didn't have the WNBA to go dominate.
Right.
So,
Real talk.
All right, and then you have Hogwash. So,
well, my hogwash is your boy Josh McDaniels. He still got a job with the New England Patriots. No, I'm just playing. That's not my hogwash. My
he's always
hogwash
got a job with them, bro. He's like Memphis Bleak.
right. Yeah, no, that's not my hogwash.
That's good.
My hogwash is Patrick Mahomes. Yes, favorite player in the NFL. But him faking going out of bounds and picking up an extra yards after that is bullshit, because he knows he can't be touched. It feels like a loophole that the NFL definitely has to close, because he fakes going out of bounds a lot. And then he just gains a couple extra yards. He's messing with the defense, man. And NFL, they got to like penalize him, the Chiefs, something, because that can't keep going on, man. Seriously, that's hogwash. Him being able to do that and keep getting away with it.
I agree, actually. That's a good point.
Yeah, I would have said something along the same line. So I'll change it up on the fly here, because I do think that they are getting dangerously close to getting rid of integrity in the game by letting all this stuff go on with Patrick Mahomes. He's a great football player. Let him be a great football player. But that being said,
You ain't got to do all that.
yeah, my hogwash goes to your CEO, Harbaugh. I mean, it was just too darn easy for them to go and have a game plan that made sense. And it's a bunch of hogwash that you decided to ruin all of that. And then, quite honestly, the first thing he should have done, because he knows that folks like Jason are going to be out there and putting it all on Mr. Jackson. He knows that what he should have done was immediately go, this is on me. This is on the game plan. There's absolutely no reason why I didn't think that I shouldn't have been using Derrick Henry to get 2 yards when he is the hardest person in the NFL to stop in a straight line. Saquon will get you left and right. Derrick Henry will run your butt over. But anyways, there's a bunch of hogwash if they put that out there again, and they only lost by 2 points.
Yeah, I like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Harbaugh's getting the pass. It doesn't make sense. That boy Henry
Harbaugh is getting a pass. Real talk. Yeah.
Derrick Henry averaged 4 carries a quarter, if you think about it. He had like 16 carries. That's
He only had 16 carries. Yeah.
That's crazy, bro. Why? Every one of us knew. Every one of us that plays Madden, every one of us that watches football. Joseph don't even be on it. We could ask him, like, who would you give the ball to?
Right.
The big guy.
The big guy. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I was gonna say, why don't you get to that big guy? Like that didn't.
Why
that didn't
acquire
make
him?
sense.
Hey, you know what? To be honest with you, though,
This is why they lost last year.
I think Baltimore really had a real shot this year, and I don't know.
Lost
We'll
by
see
2.
next year. We'll know next year, but I don't know. They might have a 49er decline next year. I don't know, because sometimes some losses hurt more than others, man. Especially when you had a really. Baltimore really had a shot. They could have won
and some of the wide receiver situation is not outstanding. It's always a little tenuous, and Andrews is kind of getting to that aging out situation where he will always be good. He's going to become Zach Ertz. Like he's always going to be viable, but he's not going to be the guy anymore. I don't think anybody's trying to draft him in the third or fourth round of a fantasy draft anymore. He's the guy you pick up in the 8th, and you'll have decent output. Now maybe Isaiah Likely becomes that guy, but they're different guys. Likely is a small scat back who happens to be able to play tight end, and Andrews was the big guy who could do it all for you. So it's a problem. look, I have confidence in the team and the organization. They've been doing a pretty nice job over there, but you could very well be right that they might have lost a little bit of that window by not winning that game.
Stupid.
We'll
I was telling you something earlier, but I don't have one. Just NFL referees is fine for Hogwash. Minute to win
I guess
it.
we'll talk about Ben Johnson next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about all the coaches.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was thinking about that.
Because we got the dead week between Super Bowl and
Yeah.
I don't think we can talk about the Pro Bowl for that much.
Nah, we'll talk about all the coaches and we could rank the jobs. You thought there's only one that's off the table right now, so and you still rank that job
still
too.
rank it, yeah.
Yeah, still rank it.
So minute to win it. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks B and the family for hosting. While I'm out here, that's all I got. Let you guys do it.
Man, well, B closes this out. I'm just gonna say R.I.P. Bob Uecker, man. He passed away at 90 years old, man. He was broadcast for the Milwaukee Brewers, for many, many years, but I really know him from like This Week in Baseball when I used to watch baseball and the movie Major League, man. He was just hilarious to me. So he was a funny dude by all accounts. People say he was a good guy, a funny guy, and sad to hear him passed away. First, Ricky Henderson, my favorite baseball player. Now Bob Uecker, probably my second favorite baseball announcer behind Ben Scully. So Ben Scully real well, Brian. So so RIP to him.
Made it to 90 though. I can only hope.
Yeah, please let me have that. Yeah. I think everyone knows where I'm going. The last 36 hours have been a little piece of hell. To see Trump take office, to see JD Vance and his arrogant self walking around like he did something. And then almost immediately that guy gets rid of birthright citizenship, lets out, pardon something like 1,500 people involved with January 6th, some of which were involved in the death of police officers and maiming of police officers. He was supported by police officer unions throughout the country who are now trying to figure out, what do you mean he's actually going to do what he said he was going to do for the entire time that he was running for office by letting them out? Of course you wouldn't do that. We're police officers. You would never go against them. Well, guess what? That's exactly what he did. But I don't want to focus on that because that's, kind of like the inevitable train wreck. What I want to focus on is a man that I'm completely 100% done with, and that's Snoop Dogg. F that man is all the way. Nothing is more hypocritical than going out there and doing exactly what he did the last time that Trump got elected and saying anybody who did it is an Uncle Tom and this, that, and the third. And then this year doing exactly that. Not only has he lost all his ability to have any integrity whatsoever, I don't see how he can argue that he should be in the Olympics. He used to be Mr. Likeable. I'm gonna be on here with this person. I'm gonna be that person. I'm gonna be this person. I have no idea what he got paid to do it, but to sell your integrity for whatever that amount was, I hope it lasts you a lifetime, brother, because it's a wrap. It is 100% a wrap. There's literally nothing that he could do that I will touch with a 10-foot ball. If he's doing a simulcast on the Olympics, I will make sure not to watch the Olympics. Done. That was foul. That's in the family. What I mean by that, you can figure it out. But you can't call people the Uncle Tom for doing what they did when they weren't part of that family and then go and do it yourself. And I heard other rappers talking about it, but all of them said it in ways that literally make the point. It was ignorant from beginning to end.
Yeah, the only thing I know is they said it wasn't exactly a Trump event. It was a crypto bros. They knew him, whatever. But Trump wasn't there. It wasn't.
You know what Elon Musk did while that happened? Though he got on stage and said, "The vibe change is real, isn't it?" Pointed right at him.
Yeah, you do put yourself in those.
You put yourself in a situation to have Trump supporters and to go out there and say it. Everyone knew that it was a Trump inauguration event. And it's not to say that it was done by Trump, but you knew what it was and you did it anyway. There was no confusion. They weren't inaugurating anybody else that day. So, that's a wrap. I'm good with him.
Just wanted for clarity because we try and speak facts as much as we can. So appreciate y'all for checking us out. This is Sports Counterpoints podcast. It's January the 21st, 2025, and we'll see y'all next week as we head toward the Super Bowl. Thanks for listening.